Figured with the new Planet of the Apes movie coming out, it would be a great time to kind of take a look back at the series and rank the characters. But I didn't know how exactly I wanted to rank them. Was it by strength? Was it by importance to the story? And after some thinking, I decided that, maybe it was niceness. Let's talk about who's most friendly. Who would I be most likely to want to share a banana with? That at least gives a little something different to talk about. Be warned, there are going to be spoilers in this, maybe for all of the movies. I'm not setting out to spoil the movies, but I can't guarantee what I'm going to say as I get talking about them. Let's go ahead and get started by talking about that bottom tier, which is going to be those boring humans. Now, these are just the people who I'm not really that interested in talking to because most of them are just pretty normal, right? Even if they might be living in the post-apocalyptic world like Malcolm and his buddies are, as they're kind of at the top of the list. They're still just people and they still have people problems. And I'm not really that interested in getting into it with them. Kind of go down the list a little bit, into the people who kind of live in the more modern day. Even less interested to spend time just talking with these random people who I don't know, especially not share a banana with them. That's pretty weird to be like, hey, want to have a banana with me? I wouldn't blame them for saying no. And I would say no if they asked me to. So I'm going to go down through Will and his family there and there, finish up with his boss, Mr. Jacobs. Him and John Landon, the guy who heads up the Ape Sanctuary, they're almost awful enough to kind of move up into the next tier, or maybe the one above that. But I think they're just boring enough. They're not quite exciting enough, not threatening enough to really get up there. And they're not going to have anything I want to talk to them about. Like, look at these guys. They're boring. No, thank you. And that gets us up into the next tier, which is going to be that hard pass tier. So this is the tier where either I feel like I'm going to die in this talk for sure, or the people are just so despicable and I just can't stand them, or they're so annoying that it's just like, don't even want to think about it, no second thought. And so we start off at the bottom of that tier with the person I'm the least strongly feeling and a hard pass on, and that's going to be Carver. This guy is the worst. I said it in my recap of the series. He just sucks. I don't like him at all. He's super annoying. He's useful. That's the only reason he gets to come around. And I don't need to talk to a guy about how to fix a hydroelectric dam. So don't need to talk to this guy at all. No, thank you. Then we get to Dodge Landon, Draco Malfoy himself. He's really good at playing an unlikable character, this guy is, because he seems super nice. Tom Felton does in all the interviews and everything. But he's just really good at playing these guys who just, again, are just not fun to be around. He's picking on the apes. I don't like anybody who takes like any kind of power position that they have and like uses it to like, I don't know, just like lord it over people. And the way that he does it is just like the grossest kind of way that someone can do it. So no, thank you. He can go. Douglas Huntsinker, I think is how we say it, right? Will's neighbor. This guy also, I mean, I understand his perspective and that like this ape next door keeps kind of coming over and everything and his car is getting stolen, but he doesn't even know that like his neighbor is suffering from Alzheimer's and that's what's going on. Like this guy is not invested in his neighborhood life at all. You got to at least kind of know a little bit about what's going on. He's not paying attention at all to his neighbors either if he doesn't realize they have a chimp next door. So I don't know. Plus he's responsible for the simian flu spreading across the entire world. Guy should have called in sick. That's all I'm saying. Now the Colonel, played by Woody Harrelson, great villain. This is definitely one where it's like, I might not survive having this meal if he thinks that I'm infected with that advanced simian flu. So he's one where I'm not wanting to go because there's the danger. But then also when it comes to what this guy is interested in talking about, I'm just like, no thanks. It's like, he gone. This guy's not interested in talking about the weather. And that's baseline. If we can't talk about that, we can't talk about anything else. Finally, we make it to an ape on the list. In the hard pass tier, we're going to have two of them. The first one's going to be Silva from the newest movie, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. This guy, in my opinion, is like the villain of the movie. Proximus Caesar is like the big bad. He's the head of everything. But Silva is the guy you spend the most time like trying to stay away from. He's a big, scary gorilla. He doesn't like people. He would not hesitate for an instant to rip my head off. And so because of that, I'm going to kind of want to keep my distance from him there. And then, of course, in the hard pass tier, the number one, it's got to be Koba. Now, as much as Koba is interesting and very cool as a character, he's not somebody that's going to want to talk to me. I might be like, Koba, sir, would you like to have a talk with me over this banana? He would definitely take offense to that, and he would machine gun me where I stand. So this guy hates humans more than anybody that we see in the entire series. Rightfully so, maybe. He gets been tested on and prodded by people his entire life, and finally gets this chance to kind of be out and about, and then gets the feeling that his best buddy in the world is liking humans more than he likes apes like him. And so I can understand why he turns. I don't think it was the right thing to do, and personally it's not going to be good for me. So he's got to be down there for sure. Then we get up to hesitant. So hesitant tier is going to be where it's like, maybe we could find something to talk about, but there's definitely a threat level for me involved here. Dreyfus, played by Gary Oldman, you might think that, okay, yeah, he's a human. He's fighting for the humans. He's going to be a guy who you're going to feel at least kind of safe with. So at least put him in the boring humans tier. But the guy straight up blows up himself and his two buddies at the end of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes to try to kill all the apes. And I ain't going to be sitting there with this guy eating a banana when all of a sudden he's like, this is the chance we can kill all those monkeys. And then he blows us all up. Any meal that I could be having with somebody that could possibly end with me exploding is a meal I'm going to try to stay away from. May or Nova from Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, she's also going to be pretty low. And it's because of those late movie reveals about her, right? She's lying to people straight up to get what she wants. And I just don't like that. This newest movie is doing a real good job of just having me not be rooting for the people at all. And the big reason of that is because of her. I don't think she's badly acted. I think it's the character, and it's what the character is meaning to be doing. She's shown that she's willing to do acts of violence to the point of killing someone if they get in the way of her plan. And so, again, someone like that, probably going to want to stay away from. Speaking of acts of violence, Trevethan, I think, is who William H. Macy is. I think that's how they said his name. He is a human who is kind of sided with the apes, out of fear and necessity. So I completely understand that. But he's totally willing to turn on people if he needs to. But I put him just a little bit higher, than May is, because she kills him. She straight up strangles him to death. And so he's not as much of a threat, right? He's got those two busted up ankles. You can run away from this guy pretty easily if the need were to arise. He does seem like he could have some fun things to talk about and everything. But again, like I said, I think he would have no problem like telling Proxima Caesar like what you're up to, just to be able to like get a little bit more of what he wants. Moving up the list, we're going to talk about Koro and Dar next. These are Noah's parents, the main character's parents. From Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. They're going to go on this list because they consider people to be just like pests, right? We're like just big old rats that keep getting in the way and getting into their stuff. And so, they don't want to talk to me. They got nothing to say to me at all. And honestly, I don't really want to talk to somebody who thinks of me that way anyway. So moving up the tier, though, we get to Proxima Caesar. And you might be surprised to see him here instead of in the hard pass. But I do think, in the right situation, you could have a good talk with this guy. Though, of course, it could go sideways. I could see myself getting into that position where my job is to read to this guy all the time or just kind of tell him stories. But I tell him about Die Hard. I tell him about, Harry Potter and stuff. And be like, yeah, this happened. It was crazy. And he would be like, that's the best story I've ever heard. Thanks so much for telling it to me. Here, you can hang out here in the kingdom and everything still. There are worse things. There are worse ways to kind of survive out here in the wilderness. Now we're going to have 3 gorillas. We'll start off with Buck. I'm hesitant to talk to Buck from Rise of the Planet of the Apes because he just recently became super intelligent. He's not going to really have much to say to me. He hasn't had good experiences with people. So yeah, that's not much there. Then we move up to Winter, the white gorilla from War of the Planet of the Apes. This guy, he is afraid of people so much that he's going to betray all of his friends. And so I don't know, again, not the coolest dude. And then we finish up the top of Hesitant. Maybe you would think we should switch these two around, Winter and Red. But I really kind of appreciate Red as a character a lot. I think he's, willing to talk to people for his own survival and everything. But when it comes down to it, he still knows where his loyalties lie. And I appreciate that. Again, hesitant to talk to him, probably wouldn't walk away from it. But that being said, I think we could have a good time while it was happening. The next tier up here is probably even more boring than the boring humans tier, but it's all apes. And it's just all apes that I really got nothing to talk about. Either they're barely characters, or they just, again, don't think of humans as anything more than just a pest. We start off with Suna and Anaya. We'll tag them up together. These are the two apes from Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. They are Noah's best friends. Again, they're cool characters. They're fun in the movie. But when it comes down to it, us just sitting there talking, I think it's going to be a very, very forced conversation. I think the same's going to go for Cornelia and Lake. They're great caretakers. They're very kind and nice. I don't know what they'd want to say to me. Moving up the tier list again, we're going to be an interesting chat. So these people, I think that we definitely could kind of sit there, have a good conversation. Nobody's going to get killed in it. But also, kind of be able to share things with each other, maybe walk away, but not feel like it needs to continue past that one conversation. Bright Eyes, Caesar's mom, I'd be happy to talk with her. If we had the ability to actually speak with one another and I could hear from her what it was like to grow up in the wilderness, what it was like to kind of like have everything taken away from her, how she'd been able to adapt. It's really sad how her life ends, obviously, but if we could have maybe seen how it could have escalated and gone into a good direction, she would be a fun person to sit down and chat with. Ash is Rocket's son. We'll talk about Rocket in a little bit, and I really like this guy. He's a good buddy for Blue Eyes, and he's friendly, kind. Even though he gets shot by a person, he is not wanting to like smash somebody's skull in later on. Like Koba tells him, hey, you kill this random person, probably thinking, Ash got shot by a person. He's gonna be willing more than anybody else to do this act of violence. But he's like, Caesar wouldn't like this, and this isn't like the right thing to do. And it costs him his life, man. So Ash cares about people enough, or at least about doing the right thing enough to suffer some consequences for it. And so because of that, I'm all about hearing what this guy's got to say. Moving up again, we get to Luca. I love this guy. Luca has got like a good energy. He's kind enough to kind of pick flowers out of a tree and give them to a little girl. So, he's at least got a little bit of a soft side to him. He's loyal and always wants to protect Caesar and his friends. And if I'm going to be honest, I'd love to see how easily he could pick me up. I would want to see. So he's the nicest out of all the gorillas, in my opinion. So he's going to be all the way up there. Sticking with interesting chat, we move up to Blue Eyes. He's been raised outside of human influence, but he does come to show, some of those same traits his dad does have and everything, where he's just kind of wanting to do the right thing. He really kind of grows and matures. I really like what we see of him in War of the Planet of the Apes. He's going out there. I'd love to hear about his adventure and journey that he had with Rocket, as they're looking for this new homeland for the apes, like kind of in that time between those two movies. That would be a cool, interesting kind of story to have with him. So yeah, I think there's definitely a lot to go with there. And another reason, as we move up to talk about Rocket, that I'd like to talk with him. And plus, he's been there from the beginning, right? Rocket's been there from day one. He's had a complicated relationship with Caesar and with people, but yet he's still there, like with the four when they bring in the little girl Nova. And so obviously he's kind enough to be a part of that. I just like this guy. I love Rocket as a character. I'd love to have a chance to chat with him. Finishing up the interesting chat here, we're going to look at Noah. So the main character from the new Planet of the Apes, the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. He kind of comes around on people. So I do think we could have some things to talk about and everything. He is still kind of in that mindset of, people are bad, they're pests and all this stuff, but they're also, they kind of grow into like a bigger threat in his mind, even knowing like what we did or what we do with primates and everything nowadays. And so, yeah, there could be some tension there, maybe a little bit, but I do think we could definitely have a talk, hopefully maybe kind of make some progress in his relationship with people moving forward. And then that brings us up to the top tier, Banana Buddies. That's what we're calling them. These are people who I think we could have continuing chats where I could say like, hey, let's get together, man. Let's every like third Tuesday, let's meet up, let's share a banana, let's just kind of check in with each other and see how we're doing. We're going to put Caesar here at the bottom of this list. This guy is battle hardened and like traumatized and everything. So he's got a lot going on. And so he's got more important things to do than make time to talk with me, some random guy. But I do think that he might like to have some kind of connection with people. He's shown that time and time again that he's making these connections with people who are are good people. I would hope that I could prove to Caesar somehow that I could be a good person too. And so that he might want to spend that time with me. Going up the next bit in the Banana Buddies, we've got Cornelius. So his son, in the movies, what we see of Cornelius is he's just a cute little monkey guy. Right? He's just a cute little ape, little chimpanzee running around. So that's fun. I'd love to share a little banana with him. He talks a bit. He knows how to sign and everything in the third movie. And so maybe we can still even have at least a bit of a conversation. So plus it'd be cool to see him grow up, right? To see that progress. It's nothing quite like seeing a kid become their own person. And to see an ape do that, that's 1 in a million. Never really get to see that happen. Next is Nova, the only person to kind of escape all of the other stuff. Now, she is a child, and so she doesn't really have a chance to do stuff that would disqualify her. She isn't like a jerk. She's on the right side. She's working with the apes and everything. And by working with them, I mean like she's hanging out with the apes because they're taking care of her. But she's also brave, and I really like that about her. She is kind. She takes care of Caesar when he's captured and everything. And I'd love to hear her perspective on like everything that goes on in that movie, and then kind of moving forward from there. Getting to talk to Nova when she was an old lady, right? When she's had this whole life living with the apes and seeing how it's all kind of developed. That would be interesting. Be interesting for sure. So Bad Ape is next up. And I put this guy up here because I think he's fun. I think he'd be hesitant to want to talk with me. Rightfully so. He's had some bad experiences with people, but he doesn't come across as like overtly threatening to me. So I think that we could kind of work it out, have some time, and maybe we can repair those bonds that have been broken in those bad relationships that he's seen people treat each other, treat apes, and we just kind of become buddies, right? Steve Zahn is great as Bad Ape, and I remember not liking the character as much the first time I watched the movie, but he really grew on me as I was working on the last video and everything. I think that he's got a lot more depth than I gave him credit for the first time that I watched the movie. So yeah, I think that he definitely belongs up here. He's easy to talk to. Again, pretty funny, light. I like that. Now, Maurice. Maurice would have been my number one if it weren't for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes coming out. But Maurice is just so good. So nice, kind, patient, caring, wanting to protect Nova. Also always thinking about like what's the best for all of the apes, not just any one given person at a time. Great leading traits in there. But then also the experience of getting to see and live a life that was before all this too, and see the changes of it. Maurice is going to have a lot of good stories, a lot of good things to talk about. So that's why Maurice is going to end up as high as he does. But that leaves one guy, and that's Raka. And Raka is going to be my top ape because Raka would be excited to talk to me. I think almost everybody else here, we could chat here, and it could be a pleasant experience. But just in meeting me, Raka would be excited, and I think that's a fun thing. I mean, I don't know if I've ever had that experience in real life where somebody was just like, "Oh, you are just you. I don't know anything about you, but I'm excited to talk to you," because he wants to hear about people, especially somebody who lived in the time of Caesar. He's going to think I'm the coolest ever. And plus, it's not just he's going to like the idea of talking to me. I'm going to rock his world with what I'm going to tell him about how the world was and what he thought and all this stuff. He's not going to walk away from that conversation the same at all. On top of all that, he also does come across as, at least in my opinion, the most intelligent like ape in the entire series. Like he is just comprehending things. Of course, he's misunderstanding stuff, like when he's trying to interpret what he thinks Caesar was saying and everything from back in the day. But he's really getting a lot, and like he's working on like reading and like writing and all this stuff too. And so I think that's kind of like why I'd have him up there at the very top. So what about you? Who's the one character from the Planet of the Apes you'd want to share a banana with? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Let me know if there's any kind of tier list that you think could be fun to go through. I'd happy to do it. But yeah, let me know those suggestions in the comments below as well. And make sure to subscribe so you can be here when we put out our next video, whether it's a recap or just kind of like ranting about something or doing another tier list. We do all kinds of stuff here on the channel, and we'd love to have you be here and be able to kind of participate in that. So, all right, we'll see you then. Until then, take care.